Okay, we're going to start on part two of the critiques of the informative speeches. This one is by Brisby, and its topic is separation anxiety in dogs. Just an overall comment. This is a kind of a narrow topic, and you want to be sure that you understand your audience. You want to be sure that you're speaking to the audience about something that they are interested in or should be interested in. And I'm sitting here as a dog lover, but without a dog, and don't plan to have a dog. And so I'm sitting here thinking, okay, well that's nice, but you're not ringing any bells for me. So think in terms of your audience. Speak to the camera, right to the camera. That's crucial. And also make sure that you don't scratch like this when you do that. That's me. That wasn't you. That's me doing that. Speak to the camera and make sure this is the shot composition. You did not have that. You must have this. It's going to cost you dearly grade-wise if you do not follow that. Sustain the flow of your speech from one point to another. Make sure that the flow moves smoothly. There were no awkward pauses, anything like that. All right, you had no visuals. You had no outline, no outlines properly formatted. Please read your textbook. You'll find out about that. You have a lot of ums and ahs. You are a good speaker, but you must follow the directions on the speeches, and you specifically. I have no photo ID. This is the last speech I will accept. You have already got an F in the class. The only way you can turn that F around is to get me that photo ID before you get me the next speech, which is due on the 22nd. So make sure that you get me that photo ID before that. All right, next up is Mac, and Mac spoke about color blindness. Interesting topic. Even if you're not, it's kind of interesting to get a first-person view of what that is about. There's still not enough light on your face. All right? Your credibility needs to come at the start of the speech. I don't mean in the first sentence, but it's not until quite a ways into the speech that we found out that you have a form of color blindness. That would have been nice to know from the very beginning. Otherwise, if you're not colorblind, why are you talking about this topic? All right, you had a very good opener for your speech. Got the attention. You also need to do a little bit about why are you doing this speech, and that would have helped in terms of the credibility. You're not being conversational, so kind of talk to me, not at me. You sound like this was a science class project. That's where we're talking about being conversational. Don't just recite a bunch of facts. Talk to me, not a science class project. And make sure when you talk to me, you're not talking at me. Be conversational. By the time you state your form of color blindness, we've forgotten the definitions. So I don't know what your level of color blindness is because it was so far away from all of those things that you told us. You are reading far too much of your speech. And again, on the good side, you had very good source citation. So some pluses and some minuses. Next up is Jazzy. And Jazzy spoke about a smoking ban. You had a good opening. Nice job on composing yourself before you started. You had a nice conversational style. You had an excellent citation of sources. But you're reading too much. Look at me. Talk to me, the camera. That's where I am. A really nice smile at the end of your speech. That's nice, kind of classy. And your speech outline establishes your credibility, but you didn't in your speech. Okay? So get that up top in there, and that was for Jazzy. All right, next up is Tink, and Tink talked about pancreatic cancer. This was a bit long. We need to know what your credibility is on this. Watch the lip smacking. And also, you seem to be searching at times for words. Nice appearance, professional looking, nice job. Lower the picture on the wall behind you so it's kind of the same level as your eyes. nice display of the picture, but you need to kind of get it a little lower. And also, you're supposed to send me a copy of your visuals with your outlines. You didn't do that. Don't use terms you can't pronounce, okay? Make sure you're using terms. Look them up so you're not having trouble pronouncing them. You lose this in your survival rate section. You had a lot of statistics there, so make sure that you make it very conversational and very easy to follow. Also, I would ask you, what is your audience for this speech? That's something you already have done on a discussion board for your next speech. What is your audience for this speech? 31,800, lots of trouble. And it kind of had a weak ending there, so good topic, but you want to work on the endings and make sure you sustain the quality. Next up is Shadow. Shadow spoke about President Lincoln, and you had a lot of clearing of your throat, kind of distracting. You only had 5 in your audience. You need to loosen up the camera shot. You are reading your speech. That's a big no-no. Good job in terms of the concept of your speech, and it was a story that is well told, but you telegraph let me put this a different way. Telegraph that you're ending your speech, so it actually helps the audience understand, okay, this is the wrap-up, folks, I'm done, here it comes, and then make it sound like it's the end of the speech when you get to the end of the speech. That's pretty important. Next up is Steelers, and you talked about the Oakmont Country Club. Excellent job on establishing your credibility. Work a little bit on the flow. Smooth out as you go from point to point. So the flow is one thing. You don't have awkward pauses between things, and then make sure that you smooth that flow out as you go through from one point to another. Make sure you cite your sources in your speech. You have you did a nice job on this speech. It was well delivered. You're reading something to the right of the camera, so get rid of that. Make sure you're speaking from speaker notes. As I've told you a number of times, you are actually, I like to do it with 3 or 4 words, like bullet points. And I look down and I see the 3 or 4 words, and then I know what I'm going to talk about at that point. Then I see the next 3 or 4 words. They just remind me where I'm going next. Okay? You have a very nice speaking style. Overall, this is a good job, a nice presentation style, and it was an interesting speech. Next up is Red, and Red talked about the history of IU. You got a little lost in your flow at the start of your speech. Cite the sources of your facts as you mention them. How many times do I keep saying that? Cite your source. I've been saying this almost since day one about sources and telling us who they are. Work on the flow. You have several awkward points in your speech because of the lack of flow. Make sure you work on that. You had a kind of a weak, unenthusiastic ending. You did not send any visuals with your outlines, so that's a downer. Make sure you follow the directions. All right, next up is Harley. Harley spoke about clogging. You're reading your speech, Harley. Too much of that. You have good source citation as you spoke. Because you are reading, you are not conversational. You are speaking in rhythms, and that's where I refer to as a kind of a ta-da, 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 ta-da. And that's a very bad rhythm you want to do. It's just same as when you write. Make sure your sentences have different lengths. Your paragraphs are short and long and medium. Same thing when you speak. Speak in longer terms, speak in shorter terms, speak in medium terms. Mix it up. Put some punctuation in there on your sentences. What else? Even you don't seem interested in what you're talking about at times, although I know you are. I know you were a clogger. I know that this is something you really liked, but you've got to put some energy and some enthusiasm into it. You're just kind of stating a collection of words, and that's something you don't want to do. So, personalize your speech and make sure that you get good vocal variety. And here's an example. There are 5 things you can control when you're speaking: pitch, pace, tone, volume, and silence. Pitch, pace, tone, volume, and silence. Pitch, how high is your voice? Pace, how fast do you talk? Tone, remember that thing your mother used to do to you? Don't speak to me in that tone of voice. All right. Pitch, pace, tone, volume, loud, soft, vary it as you speak. You don't always have to be real loud. So you can vary your voice as you talk. All right. And silence. There are times when pausing for a second brings the audience closer to make sure they hear and understand what you're going to say next. It's a good effect. It's a good technique. So you want to kind of pay attention to that when you can. Next up is, I call it Pigolina, and you talked about Pyrenees. I'm pronouncing that wrong. No outlines. You submitted no outlines submitted via email. Don't pin your hands behind your back. You know, you kind of put your hands behind your back and talk that way. Several times you seem to get lost in your own speech. You talked about large dogs get cancer. Okay. And your point? Where are you going for sources with your facts? Where are you going with the cancer thing? What are your sources for your facts? You speeded up your ending. Watch the vocalized pauses, the ahs and ums and things like that. Examine who your audience is. If it's only people who own that breed of dog, it's kind of narrow. If it's a general audience, then handle it that way. And also, you said ACK, not AKC. Make sure you get your phrases right and do it that way. All right, we're going to pause here. We'll be back with another one after this.